All right, that's on.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, so welcome to La Plazita. So we're gonna start off
No, come here.
the meeting. Albino's daughter Sylvia is gonna do a blessing, and we're gonna pass around the sage. That's a cleansing process we
Forgive me
use.
for being distracted.
Oh, that's
yes.
fine.
Yes, I'm listening with the sage and I'm familiar, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with Sylvia.
Yeah, so welcome. We want to welcome you to La Plazita. Usually the way we begin a lot of our programs and services here, and just the day is by lighting sage, and like you said, you're familiar with it, right? So it's to purify and just bring in good energy.
Wonderful.
So we'll start off I don't want to call this a meeting, just
A cultural exchange. would be
that
wonderful.
sounds way better.
Cultural exchange, absolutely.
So why don't you start off telling us where you're from, introduce your daughter, and then after that, after you do your introduction, we'll go around and explain everything we do, and then we'll do a site tour. So,
Wonderful.
we just know a little bit, so I guess.
Wonderful. Deeply honored and grateful and thankful to be here with you. Traveled 1,900 miles approximately, and I'm just grateful in many ways. Like I said, a lot more words, but I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to be in your presence and with you today. Give honor to my mother and father for being the vessel that brought me here. My mother is Elder Foster, which is a slave name that was imposed on my mother. My father, Irvin Foster, same name. They grew up in Dayton, Ohio, Midwest, America. My father's his father was from Alabama, and was one of those people that did something to a European that made him flee for risk of his life. And so that's what took him up north. Many people consider the Ohio River, like the Jordan River, crossing the Jordan River is symbolic. My grandmother's people are all Moors. Her father is Isaiah Henry Harrison Moore, who was a dean of a Bible college, was a youth preacher starting at 12 or so. His father was a Methodist minister, we say out of the West Indies. Henry Harrison Moore, and their father was John Jameson Moore, who was a bishop of the AME Zion denomination. Bishop John Jameson Moore, his mother, Frances Moore, Franny Moore, was born a free woman in North America, but was kidnapped from Maryland and was imposed and put into slavery and was forced to have children, and she freed herself. She escaped. She ran away. She was caught the first time, and the second time she was successful and brought her children with her, one of whom is my great-grandfather. So without taking much more time, just respecting my ancestors, I respect the land that we stand on. and I'm seeking permission to be on the land, with all of you, and I'm, like I said, very thankful and humbled to have this opportunity. And my name, I was born Quentin Foster, and later had the spiritual development or rites of passage to take on the name Hashem Ali Jabbar Odo Khan El. I can explain the meaning at another time, but yes, thank you.
I'd like to know the meaning of your name.
Okay. Hashem means the destroyer or crusher of evil. You can certainly think about that from an external point of view, destroying and crushing evil outside of you, but it is most important to start with self and the attributes and character development that is necessary for one to be an upright human being and destroying the evil inside. Ali means generous or excellent. Ali is a title as well as a name that Moors, Spain, and other indigenous areas took on as a sign of nobility. Jabbar is the mighty. It also means the compeller. Odo Khan El, Odo is a prefix that means great substance. Khan is a ruler or a governor. Odo also meaning possessing great wealth, so like a ruler or a governor possessing great wealth. And I believe at this point in time, my great wealth is knowledge, not necessarily monetary resources. But El, short, you can say for electron, for Allah, is also a title for governor or ruler as well that was taken by Moors many years previous.
And your daughter.
And Asata, her name is Asata, which is named after Assata Shakur, the former Black Panther, who was wrongly convicted of the homicide of a police officer in New Jersey, and is fled to Cuba, escaped prison and fled to Cuba. She was a political prisoner and escaped there and has been living there for over 30 years, I think. So that's who she's named after. Asada Hashima is the feminine expression of my name, Hashem. Sankara Jabbar, her last name is hyphenated. My wife's last name is Sankara, named after Thomas Sankara, who was a revolutionary and a freedom fighter in Burkina Faso in Africa. And Jabbar, again, meaning the mighty or the compeller.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so I'm Renee Chavez. I'm here from New Mexico originally. I'm the liaison officer here at La Plazita. My priestess name is Okiti Majo from my ancestors, my great-grandmother Okiti, the cap of the snow-capped mountain, and Manjo, the lava and the magma on the edge of the vapor. So it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Yace Anthony Shmini Chico Ocean Shlem from the Bush's Chin, Dashache Madaskishi, Dashanala Kawa. I'm born of the Bitterwater clan for the Red Earth people, and my maternal grandfather's clan are the Coyote Pass Amos clan, and my paternal grandfather's clan are the Principal people. I'm originally from Chicago, New Mexico, on the Navajo Nation here, probably about 3 hours from here. And yeah, been at La Plazita working with the youth. We have weekly programming with them. We're the youth reporting center. And yeah, welcome to Tila land, Tila Pueblo land. And yeah, welcome. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Cordova. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm half black. My grandpa is Haitian. My dad's Cuban. My mother's half black, half native. I think she's Zulu. My grandma's Native American and half Spanish. And Zulu. Yeah.
I'm
Sanchez. I'm from, I think I was born in Texas somewhere. And my mom was Mexican, and my grandma was Mexican. My dad was Navajo and Mexican. I don't know where from. I really don't know anything about them.
How did you guys do here?
I was with a farmer here. Yeah, I was on a farm here.
Wonderful.
What is it? What's the word for it? What do go to, like, community centers, like the young house and stuff like that?
Okay, yeah, they're
Community outreach, like,
like
work.
Legislative panels. The state capitol. They're our youth voice at Santa Fe State Capitol for legislative panels.
Excellent.
So they're learning the ways.
Excellent.
And they're part of our youth reporting center. These are our youth.
Wonderful.
And I believe, are you still part of YRC or are you now GED?
I'm YRC.
Okay, it's Malachi who, we have another youth who's transitioned out and is now in our GED program.
Excellent.
But he's not here this week.
We have a couple people in our GE program that's focused on agricultural work, so they'll do 75 days at the farm, and then they'll do their pre-testing here, and once they score above a level that's high enough, they're able to test at UNM through HAP. And with that, it's pretty cool, they get an $850 stipend just to get the GE. They want to go about it like that. Get some training at the lab.
And these are part of the traditional culture that we pass on to the youth, because it's traditional of this specific area for many eons,
Right.
many generations.
Right. Wow.
I'm Sylvia, I'm Mexican, Chichimeca, Lipan Apache, and Filipino on my mother's side. I kind of grew up here at La Plazita, here my dad being the executive director, but I started formally working here about 3 years ago through the AmeriCorps program.
Okay.
I started out doing our CSA program, our community supported agriculture, and we distribute our certified organic produce to the community for a much more affordable price. And then from there, I became a public ally, and I was doing that with public allies. Now I'm a community health worker, along with 2 other of my employees, and so I basically try to connect community members to social services such as employment, behavioral health, rental, utility assistance, things like that. Just try to get them to navigate the system and be able to advocate for themselves. I also facilitate SMAC, which is Sisters Making a Change. That's one of our Making a Change groups here, programs. We have the boys, the girls, and then we have Parents Making a Change, which later changed to People Making a Change, because we have community members, officials, judges, probation officers, whoever come, and that's monthly meetings that we have. And then I facilitate our Women's Sweat Lodge, which we'll later show you in the back. So, yeah, that's my role here at La Plazita. Welcome.
Peace, Eddie. Originally from California. My family's from Mexico, Central Mexico. Came out here to run this teacher shop program we got here. I've known the director for quite some time now through our ceremonies. And one year he offered that shop for me to come out here and work it. And that's about 4 or 5 years now. And so we use it as a means to bring extra money to the organization as an entrepreneurship. And we do production, so we get contracts, businesses, local businesses, even out of state, schools, events, anything we can get contracts. So we'll start orders from like 20 shirts to 1,000. So we're just constantly bringing in money. It's a small shop, but we do a lot of work. It stays consistent. Now, like, it's mostly word of mouth. We don't have to really market no more. We've been doing the work, so people are just spreading the word and just get emails or calls. So it stays consistent on that level. The goal is to expand it, though. Right now, at a yearly income average, probably make close to $60,000, and that's able to pay for my salary, have a part-time worker, and even have extra work, cover all supply, and extra profit goes to the organization. So it's a good little business venture for an organization, a small grassroots organization. Along with running the shop, I work with the youth too. We do a bunch of art and music. stuff like that. Throughout the year, we'll do a few events to have, safe spaces for them to come and express themselves and do art, learn from older peers, get inspired, motivated, stuff like that, guidance. So I work with Ancho, a couple other guys here on that stuff. And yeah, and with that, the philosophy is, the culture, bringing the culture back in a new, fresh way to the youth, that's been lost. They're getting a lot of negativity from other influences, so we try to bring in that culture in a fresh, kind of new way for them to pick up same things, but we're just flipping it and bringing in new ways for them to understand, really gravitate towards these things. So our model here is La Cultura Pura, which means culture heals. So we implement a lot in our pieces and our works and everything we do here. I always do as far as the shop, most of the stuff we do is already logos that are already for them, whatever they made, but sometimes we'll get asked to do custom logos for them. We always implement that culture aspect into it, whether it looks kind of corporate or casual. I always sneak something in that's kind of cultural and spiritual too. So yeah, that's what I do here. Nice meeting you.
Hi, my name is Russell Urban. I'm the program manager here. This part of the city is called the South Valley. I was raised here. I spent most of my time in prison. I came here to La Plazita 7.5 years ago as a client seeking help, and I got that help through a person that was doing the job that Sylvia does right now, a pathway navigator. So over the past 7.5 years, I've went to school because the person that was doing the pathway signed me. We got signed up for school. I started a ceramics program here. So over the past 7.5 years, I've just kind of graduated doing different jobs, and finally I took over the job of the person that signed me up when I first got here. The reason being he moved on to another job, and then recently I took over the job of program manager. So now I oversee the programs and the operations here and do a lot of maintenance, place things a lot of maintenance. So today when we do the site visit, I'm going to show you step by step all the different programs we have. Show you the t-shirt shop. We have the gardens that we have. I'm going to take you to where they're washing. Right at this minute, they're washing produce, getting it ready to take it to deliver it to the detention center. So we actually, hang out, I'll be with you in a minute. So we grow organic vegetables. We got several garden sites around this neighborhood. And the youth, and we have 2 staff members that run it, and we have another person here who washes and bundles everything. It's organic certified by the Department of Agriculture. So I'm going to show you, they're actually preparing an order right now. I'll take you step by step through everything we got to offer here. And Albino actually had to go to a meeting right before you got here, so this is a real busy week. I understand you're here for the powwow.
Yeah.
So that's, you're really going to love that.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So anything else you want to tell us? After that, we're going to,
Yes.
it's all yours.
Please be patient with me.
And any questions you got for anybody, just
Okay, thank you. Please be patient with me as I attempt to share all that I would like to share, which is we never have enough time, but I'm very thankful for the time that I have. I'm here representing a few different organizations. I work as executive director for an organization called Racial Justice Now, and our work is primarily based around education, education justice. And that is actually what brought me here the last 2 times. This is my 3rd trip to Albuquerque. And the first time I came, it was FCYO Youth Conference. It was held at the Crown Plaza. I think it was November of 2017.
I was there.
Okay, and so, right, you're familiar. And The second time I came was recently with the Praxis Project, again based around education justice. You have in front of you a culturally relevant curriculum toolkit. We've been on a campaign for the last 3 years to promote culturally relevant curriculum and culturally responsive schools, similar to what you're doing here, in that culture heals, in that we know our history and our culture, that our history and culture was taken from us intentionally. And some of us were sent away to boarding schools and different programming methods to strip us of our culture and history. But it's our work today through Racial Justice Now and the West Dayton Youth Task Force, which got started in Dayton, Ohio, to bring back our culture and history. And that is a free resource you can find online. One of the greatest takeaways I have from the first year of research that I did was a doctor named Malefi Asante, who came up with the centric theory. And that theory is just simply stating that students do best when they are at the center of the curriculum, not talking about what others did and other people's history, but seeking their history and their culture as the center of education. So that's the work that I do day in and day out. I was asked or appointed last year as the Education and Information Committee Director or International Education Committee Chair for the Ethiopian World Federation. And so the Ethiopian World Federation is an organization that was started by Haile Selassie in the 1930s. Haile Selassie is the last black emperor or last African emperor of a land, Ethiopia, that was never conquered, the only African nation that was never conquered by Europeans. And he established the Ethiopian World Federation with constitution and bylaws in the 1930s. Blacks in America were helping and assisting to send dollars to Ethiopia when they were attacked by the Italians. And based upon that work or that response and assistance, he gave this organization, along with land in Shashamane, Ethiopia, for repatriation for the Africans that were stolen and that were in what they call the diaspora. So I just want to read this statement of unity, peace, and respect from the Ethiopian World Federation. And this is also in coordination with NCOBRA, because we are still, as descendants of enslaved Africans, we are still fighting for reparations and repair for what we went through in the transatlantic slave trade. But also many of us know that many of us were also here. You know, your grandparents and our grandparents were also here. Not all of us took that imposed boat ride, you know. So again, this statement of unity, peace, and respect, we would like to thank you for receiving our delegation. We come to visit and share cultural exchange during the 2019 annual Gathering of Nations event with the whole of our indigenous or original and native families, respecting the history, heritage, and culture of your tribes and your nations. Along with the whole, we give respect and recognition to the local-based institutions in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Plazita Institute, Native American Community Academy, or NACA, and the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. We are here in the worship and praise of the one divine creator known by many names. We are here honoring our ancestors and yours. We are here in the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood and goodwill, respecting your right to the land that we stand on, seeking your permission to be on the land with you. We bring you warm greetings from our organizations and from the families of the descendants of enslaved Africans in the United States. We respect your rights as human beings, wishing you no harm, physical or otherwise. We respect your rights as sovereigns, your rights of self-governance, your right to self-defense, and your right to establish your own institutions. We respect your right to religion or way of life and the history, heritage, and culture of your people. This year, 2019, marks the documented 400th year of Africans being enslaved in North America. Our visit here today is historical and reflects our desire to restore our history, heritage, and culture of our people, to have healthy and productive international relationships, and to shake off the colonized slash enslaved mind of our common oppressor. And this is from the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated, NCOBRA, DWH Inspires, the Black Men Rising Movement, and the West Dayton Youth Task Force. Again, Haile Selassie putting the Ethiopian World Federation into existence through its bylaws and constitutions. He was a supreme diplomat, traveled the world, and so in coordination with his diplomatic example, I come today with gifts. And so I just want to be able to share some of our culture that we have learned through the process of shaking off our colonized minds. So all of that you see, excluding the pictures of my ancestors, you know, are gifts for La Plazita. So I just wanted to, are any of you familiar with Kwanzaa as a holiday?
Absolutely.
Kwanzaa. And so Kwanzaa also comes with the Nguzo Saba, which is called 7 Principles. And this is for you. And so this was developed by Dr. Malana Karenga out of California. And Dr. Malana Karenga took what he felt as though was the best of our African indigenous principles and made a synthesis of them and gave us a holiday and principles to help abide by this holiday. So the 7 principles are unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, which you all are practicing all of the above, right? Purpose, creativity, and faith. And so the different parts here of this is called the Kanara, and it holds 7 candles, and the 7 candles represent the 7 principles that I just shared. The Makika, or the straw mat, is a textile mat that represents our African traditions and symbolizes the foundation on which all rest and foundations upon which we build. We already said the Kanara is a 7-place candle holder that represents the original stalk from which we all sprang. It also represents the reason and our social structure. The 7 candles, there's a black candle that goes in the middle, 3 candles that are green on the left side, and other candles that are red on the right. The 7 candles represent the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and they are the heart of our Kwanzaa value system. I didn't have any fruit with me today, but the fruit represents the rewards of our collective labor, just like the young men that are outside doing the work of cleaning the vegetables. It's a collective process that we all come together to benefit from as a whole. The ears of corn, which again I didn't have today, they symbolize our children, such as a salad. Thus, each family displays many ears of corn as it has children, and even households with no children place an ear of corn on the mat to symbolize the African concept of social parenting. The gifts, during the time of Kwanzaa, we share gifts that are typically handmade, not bought. And the gifts represent the fruit of the labor of the parents and are given as rewards and encouragement to the children to help them inspire to continue to practice the value in the coming year. And lastly, the cup symbolizes unity, and it's the foundation principle. It is exclusively for libations, which we typically pour during the Kwanzaa ceremony. So I want to share that cup with you. Thank you. And so this picture as well is also a part of the gift. Again, Haile Selassie is, I want to say the 25th, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody will. He's in the Solomonic dynasty of when Solomon the Great in the Bible, the great figure, married a sister that came from the Jordan or Israel area in what is called Saudi Arabia or that Middle East today. But they gave birth to a child, and that child continued the dynasty that eventually ruled Ethiopia and eventually led to Haile Selassie, the last emperor, Lord of Lords, King of Kings, conquering Lion of Judah, which is represented by the flag there, the red, gold, and green. And so again, that's for you. And these are some of the other gifts that we brought. Again, I'm representing specifically the International Education and Information Committee. And so we are part of a program with a scholar and cultural historian named Tony Browder. And Mr. Tony Browder teaches young children the connection of Africans to what has been built in America. We see things like the Washington Monument and other great statues and figures here, but we are disconnected from the knowledge that this was first developed in Africa and duplicated here in North America by those that studied Africans. I give honor to the royal road that Albuquerque sits on. I think you call it the La Camino Ria. Many Africans went up and down this road. Africans that were of the tradition of the Olmecs, Africans that were of the tradition of the Washita, and many other indigenous or African nations. And so it is through this knowledge that we share and that we extend symbolically learning the development of healing from knowing our culture, that we continue and have this cultural exchange, seeking brotherhood, friendship, and goodwill. And that's another gift from us to La Plazita. You'll see in the culturally relevant curriculum toolkit, there's a point in there on the back there of the 12-point program to push school districts forwards. One of them is to study the Portland baseline essays. And the Portland baseline essays, I think it's point number 7, it says Oregon baseline essays. And these were these are essays that were developed by a black scholar that we honor, Dr. Asa Hilliard, who helped to restore our culture and heritage and bring that wisdom. This is the early 80s that they were hiding from us. He helped to be the education consultant to the Portland, Oregon school district. And a part of that was not just to study African Americans or Africans, but was to study all of the peoples of the earth, including Native Americans, including Asian Americans, including Hispanic or Latinos. And so this is from the baseline essays, and again is another symbol that we are just here to share knowledge and wisdom, to receive knowledge and wisdom on our documented 400 year on our sojourn. So this is done by Mr. Chris R. Landon, a professional educator, and this is the American Indian Physical Education and Health Traditions and Contributions. And so this gives a part of your people, and forgive me if there are any errors in it, please. However, it is symbolic, again, of seeking goodwill, friendship, and sharing knowledge and wisdom. So that's another gift from our indigenous families here. That folder I had that he sent to me.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh. Yes. I got everything. Here it is. Okay. And so this is from the New Republic of Africa, an organization working towards sovereignty for Africans, specifically those descendants of enslaved Africans in the United States. And they sent their New African National Day book as well. And so again, symbolic of the unity we see. You have the Unity Cup, the book from Tony Browder, and the scholarship there, the Portland baseline essays. This is in the yellow folder that I'm going to share with you. This is HR 40, House Bill, and you're learning, these young men are learning the workings of government and the processes that you must go through to get your ultimate goals achieved in society, whether they be reparations, whether they be land, or etc. But this House Bill HR 40 was put forth by NCOBRA, National Coalition of Black for Reparations in America, And they are putting forth this bill seeking reparations, seeking the study of what it would cost. The cost would be to repair those that helped to build this nation, that were enslaved, that helped to build this continent. So HR 40 is something that we are seeking throughout the nation and internationally support for, to help establish reparations for those.
Federal bill?
Yes, and it was put forth again by Sheila Jackson out of Texas to the Congress. And so again, that's a bill that we are seeking support for from everybody that can support in any form or fashion. So all of these things I have put in this folder for you, and this is a part of our gift here to La Plazita. And then you also have lastly you have the liberation flag, black liberation flag given by Marcus Garvey, the red, black, and green. Red for the blood that we shed, green for the earth or the land that we're on, black for the original people that gave birth to all of the civilizations. And so, yeah, again, humbly, excuse me, Sana. I just want to read a few lines here from about the Ethiopian World Federation. The Ethiopian World Federation is an ecclesiastically ordained international civic league, social welfare, heritage membership organization established on August 25th, 1937 by the orders of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. It is registered as a non-for-profit corporation under Section 501c4 in the Internal Revenue Code of the United States. It enjoys special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. A little bit of the history of it is that I shared earlier, is that when they were attacked by the fascist invasion of Italy, to help rally back and back the Black King of whom Marcus Garvey had prophesied, blacks in America donated funds from their meager post-slavery resources to help Ethiopia. Many volunteered to travel to Ethiopia to help fight the war, but Afro-Americans, West Indians, and Africans who wanted to volunteer for service of Ethiopia were forbidden to do so by their respective governments. Seeking to streamline collection of the donations, the Menelik Club of Harlem, New York, sent a delegation to seek an audience with the emperor, who was in exile in Bath, England at the time. The mission consisted of Reverend William Lloyd Imes, pastor of the St. James Presbyterian Church, Dr. Philip M. Savory, chairman of the Victory Insurance Company and co-owner of the Amsterdam News, and also Mr. Cyril M. Phillip, who was the secretary of the United Aid for Ethiopia. In response, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie empowered his cousin and personal physician, Dr. Malaku Bayan, to incorporate the Ethiopian World Federation in New York with a constitution to ensure the independence and sovereignty of the black race. The organization assumed control of all fundraising activities for the war and provided aid to thousands of Ethiopian refugees in Sudan, Egypt, French Somaliland, and Kenya, and also sent volunteers to Ethiopia to help repel the Italian invaders. In 1984, the emperor granted land in Shashamane, Ethiopia, under the ownership and administration of the Ethiopian World Federation, and it's for the return and repatriation of Africans kidnapped and enslaved in the diaspora. The EWF Incorporated has the responsibility to defend and protect the rights of all indigenous people, their cultural lands, the ancient lifestyles and religions, etc. Haile Selassie made 2 visits to America. On one visit, he asked to meet a quote Indian, and the quote Indian who we met from Michigan met him, and this is the picture. And you can pass this around. And he gave him the name, and I have to look it up again, but it was a great Buffalo chief name. And so again, just honoring our indigenous families, honoring the Africans that went up and down the Royal Road, engaged in trade and commerce. I have received some criticism from persons to say, well, why would you go there? Why not build with your own people first? And in my correction, and would you say culture heals, my understanding is that the indigenous are my own people. And so Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan are my teachers. And so I have learned from them in a question and answer format. There's a question and answer that says, what is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America and all over the planet Earth? And the answer says the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America is 17 million, with the 2 million Indians makes 19 million. All over the planet Earth is 4,400,000,000. And so in that question and answer, there's great knowledge and wisdom when you look at the depth of the words. Not only did he tell us that there was one nation here, and he highlighted two specific people, 17 million and 2 million, but they all made up one original nation. And so we use the term often Native American and indigenous, but in this context, he used the term original people, saying that we are the same original people. So to those critics who say, why would you go all the way out there to, why not build with your own people first? And I say to them, I am building with my own people first. You know, this is sometimes generals make moves that private soldiers can't understand. And so the lessons of Elijah Muhammad sent me on the study to learn from the Mardi Gras tradition in New Orleans and how the relationships of Native Americans or original people, how they would hide blacks that were being enslaved, how they would have large suits that they would put enslaved or runaway slaves in these suits, and when the Europeans would come looking for them, they could not find them. And so it is the Mardi Gras tradition in New Orleans, Louisiana, that honors this relationship between natives and blacks in that fashion. There is also the revolutionary in Mexico by the name of Yanga, who was a freedom fighter in Mexico and who was a revolutionary who helped to establish what they would call maroon camps or maroon homes, who helped to fight the Spanish and others that were oppressing the people. There was also John Horse in the Gullah Geechee, South Carolina, all the way down to the Florida tradition, who, when invaders came to the East Coast and were seeking to impose genocide on natives and blacks, it was John Horse who connected with the natives to fight back and to not allow the genocide to occur, which unfortunately was followed by the Trail of Tears. But it was the connection of John Horse and what they call Seminole Indians in history, and I know that there are other names, but they say that John Horse and the Seminoles fought back for many years and were able to retain what they retained, even though they had to be pushed all the way down through the Trail of Tears, past this area all the way down to Mexico, and eventually establish their own towns. And so the Ethiopian World Federation has initiated an international movement for Black Students United under the international president, Bishop G. Avita Morrison, and myself, H.A. Jabbar, for the purpose of organizing young people to engage in this type of cultural exchange that we're engaged in today, to help to use our culture to heal and to bring young people to the decision-making table as you are doing here at La Plazita. And so it is the international movement for Black Students United that we hope to continue this cultural exchange and dialogue. When I was here at the FCYO event, I heard a brilliant young man by the name of Andrew Hollowhorn. And Andrew was talking about restoring the history and culture of his people. And he was talking as a 15-year-old at the time, but he was talking about his grandchildren and how his grandchildren would know more than he knew according to his own language, his home history and culture, the seeds and produce that his people planted, specifically the specific deer or animals that his tribe or people hunted specifically, and it inspired me so greatly for young people to know, indigenous, to know their history, but to be able to see in advance their own grandchildren and children, and not only think about today. So that was so impressionable upon me, and that again we hope to continue this type of cultural exchange. And so we don't want this to be the last time, but we want to make it an annual event where we come during this gathering of nations and bring young people to come and have this great experience. And so lastly, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie made 2 trips, as I said earlier, to America in diplomacy, and out of those 2 trips came what President Truman and President Kennedy termed as the 4-point program, and that was dealing with diplomacy to what they call undeveloped nations. And so this 4-point program I thought was a unique name as I'm coming to the Gathering of Nations, which is in the four corner region, in a similar play on words, helping us to reflect on our history and making our history today relative to today. So in the African tradition, they call it Sankofa, or being able to look back. And so when you look back, you can better see what is coming forward in the future. And so with all of that long wind that I shared, again, I appreciate your time greatly. We pray that this cultural exchange can extend. Haile Selassie is a great diplomat and traveled the world making relationships for the benefit of his people. And so in that same vein, I am here today. And so I have, through my study of diplomacy and Haile Selassie, found a cooperative agreement based around culture and sports between Mexico and Lithuania. And so it is a sample or a guide of a cooperative agreement that can be used as a template. It's 9 pages, and of course we can start with something much more simple, but a part of my goal here is to be able to create cooperative agreements, even if that cooperative agreement is just to continue to dialogue, continue to talk simply once a month about how we can work together to improve our own communities for the betterment of ourselves and the whole. And so with all of those things, I pray that you receive our gifts, and that what I said has some value to you, and that we can continue these dialogues. And I'm simply very humbled, and again, representing the Ethiopian World Federation Special International Education and Information Committee, representing the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America, DWH Inspires, the Black Men Rising Movement out of New Orleans and Michigan, the West Dayton Youth Task Force out of Dayton, Ohio. So with all of those things, thank you for allowing me to have this time, and I certainly appreciate it.
We thank you very much for the gifts and for all your information.
And are there any questions I can answer? I'm sure I'm going to have 101 as we walk around the facility. But are there any questions or anything that I said that you might want some more information on?
We thank you for coming and sharing everything that you shared with us. I definitely, I'm going to look into it and, yeah, do my own little research and build up of knowledge. So thank you for that.
It was very beautiful to have you. You have a beautiful, detailed history, and I'm very well versed with this about this. So thank you for passing on the traditions. It's very beautiful.
So I'm gonna, so that call that I have to be on at 11?
Mm-hmm. Is it 11?
It's 11.
Okay. Well, you can take your call and we'll take them around.
Okay, so I'm gonna get these guys their stuff. They're gonna take food to the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get them that, and I'll log on to that.
Okay. And so can we start maybe since, let's start with YRC and then we'll go to Eddie and we'll just go and.
Yeah, start with them, and I'll make sure that's on grade. Did I log on a few minutes that late, or did they get mad?
No, go ahead, yeah, go ahead and log on.
Take pictures, is that okay?
Yeah,
Will I do that?
picture, guys, hold on. Hold on,
I
guys.
can take all the pictures you want.
Okay.
Eddie,
Can we take a few pictures?
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Come on in. Hungry?
Okay, Daddy gonna get you something to eat.
Next week,
Thursday, next week. Everyone stand by the flag.
Yeah, let's stand in front of the flag of Judah. Round power, huh?
You went on
Habari guys.
What's the news?
Alright. Alright.
Awesome. Get somebody to switch with me, I can,
You got it?
There's one.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Make sure to share your photos with us.
Yes, definitely.
I'll be right back, let me just get them. The food is, he'll explain. Can you, go ahead,
We've got something for you to eat.
go ahead and explain this to him while I get that stuff ready for him.
Okay. We have bagels. You guys eat bagels?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you guys grab the bags of bagels, Angel, you grab one for your
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
you know, too, we also have, food too, like the pasta, and then, well, not produce, but like the pasta from the ceremony that we had. Yeah, bagels, and there's apples too, there should be, I don't know if there's apples.
Will
there too,
you
guys.
bring like a couple of apples?
Yeah, she loves
For, please?
Don't you, Asada?
Very, very nice.
So when do you fly out?